Alright, in this video I want to get a little bit into this nonsense. I'm just going to briefly cover a point here because I believe it's best to just focus on one point at a time. But if you want more on this, more detail on this nonsense, let me know. I can get more in depth. I did a brief cover of Matthew 24 recently, and that's basically what these people use to base their belief of this off of. Yet they don't understand that in Matthew 24, when it talks about Jesus coming in the clouds, and then he gathers the elect from the four winds, that's not a rapture. That's when he returns. That's Revelation 19 right there. When Jesus returns with, not his bride, his wife, because they've already been married, and with the armies of heaven, he comes back and gathers the elect, the Jews, from all over to Israel. Right? And that's not the rapture. Right? And then when they compare that over to Revelation chapter 6 at the sixth seal, it talks about everybody seeing the sign of the Son of Man coming in the clouds. And they're like, yeah, see, that's the rapture. It doesn't mention anything about the dead raising and people being raptured. It mentions them seeing Jesus coming, right? Because that's not the lightning, the rapture. That is his return, right? And his return is at the end of the tribulation, right? So when you read Revelation chapter 6 and about the sixth seal, and you're like, oh yeah, that's when he comes on the cloud, that's a rapture. That's because you have a preconceived idea that Matthew 24 is talking about the rapture when it mentions Jesus coming in the clouds. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about his return. So if you're going to apply this to a rapture, then you would have to put the rapture at the end of the tribulation, not in the middle of it. And that's basically what this is. This post-trib, pre-wrath rapture view is basically a mid-trib rapture view, but they repackage it. They repackage it as post-trib, pre-wrath. But this is basically just mid-trib. That's what this is. Right here. Right? It's just, they just repackaged it. And it's nonsense. Just with that one point alone. I could get into more, but I just wanted to focus on that one point, that Matthew 24 coming on the clouds and the sixth seal has to do with Jesus returning, not with a actual rapture. Okay? Where even in Matthew 24, when it says, then Jesus is going to come in the clouds and then he gathers the elect, it doesn't say anybody is raised from the dead, right? It doesn't say they're all gathered into the clouds, right? You can imply that, but it's not what is directly said, right? It says the elect are gathered. And in that same chapter, what does it mention? It says that you got to endure to the end to be saved, and if he didn't return, there would be no flesh saved. So when he comes back in that same chapter, who is he gathering? He's saving flesh. He's not raising anybody from the dead when he's gathering everybody. Maybe he ends up doing that once he goes to Israel, but he's gathering those that are alive and remain. I know that it's in reference to the rapture, but I mean alive and remain from the end of the tribulation, not the alive and the remain at the rapture. Just to make that clear there. I'm talking about those still in the flesh, not about raising the dead, right? And again, the sixth seal is in a reference of Jesus returning. They see him coming. That's a return. That's not some midpoint that they're worried about. And a rapture just happened where the sixth seal mentions nothing about anybody raising from the dead, nobody getting caught up. It mentions the wicked hiding because they know Jesus is coming back. They can see that he's coming back. Because it's not the lightning, the quick flash, where immediately, a moment, you're in the twinkling of an eye, you are left of flesh and in the spirit. Right? That's not what's happening there. because the wicked see it and they're preparing for it. Right? But they like to say, oh, because see, that's when they're worried about the wrath of the Lamb. The whole tribulation is the wrath of the Lamb. What that is specifically talking about is when Jesus actually returns at the end of the tribulation, even the part where that you call the wrath, the last 3.5 years, when he comes back and he lands on the earth at the end of the 7 years, he slaughters a whole lot of people. That's his wrath, where his garments are going to be dipped in blood even though he's on a horse. That's how deep the blood is going to be. That's the wrath of the Lamb. Right? So I just wanted to talk about this one point real quick. And I know what somebody who believes in this is going to do. They might briefly talk about this, but they're going to jump to like 1, 2, 3, maybe even more points that they believe about the mid-trib rapture here. But let's focus at one point at a time. Where you think there is a rapture is not talking about a rapture. Okay? You put it in there because you have a preconceived idea. You got a preconceived belief. So you put it into the text when it doesn't even mention it. That's why it's nonsense. And the reason why I like to focus at one point at a time is because what's the point in getting into any other point if this one point right here refutes the whole belief? So it doesn't matter what else you have to say about it. You're wrong here, which means you're wrong about the whole thing. So I don't have to waste my time getting into anything else. Right? So, depending on the response to this, I'll get more into it. But mainly focusing on this point. Because like I said, the other points don't matter. Because this tears down the whole argument, the whole belief. So, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.